This is Jimmy Lai, a hero in the eyes of the collective West, a champion of democracy, a Hong Kong businessman known for his extreme activism. Jimmy Lai urged the US to use nuclear weapons against Chinese people in Hong Kong.
We are the only place in China, a tiny island in China, which is sharing your values, which is fighting the same war you have with China. We are on your side, sacrificing our life, our freedom, everything we have, fighting this war in the frontier for you. Should you support us? This is something that America has to know. Not only supporting us, but use your moral authority in this Cold War to win this war in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because they have nothing. And you have the nuclear weapon. You can finish them in a minute.
Despite his non-official status, he has engaged with US government officials, pushing for direct intervention in China's domestic affairs. Jimmy Lai is the founder of Apple Daily, the best-selling Chinese-language newspaper in Hong Kong. He has used his media platform to publish racist propaganda against mainland Chinese. Hong Kong, which means fragrant harbor, is a city where East meets the West in a beautiful fusion of Chinese tradition and the Western way of life. Situated on the southeastern coast of China, Hong Kong is renowned for its skyscrapers. The Hong Kong skyline has more skyscrapers than New York, Shenzhen, and even Dubai. With a history dating back thousands of years, Hong Kong has evolved from a small fishing village into one of the world's most influential financial centers. Its strategic location and entrepreneurial spirit have made it a gateway to the East, attracting tourists and investors from all corners of the globe. Hong Kong has its own government, legal system, passport, flags, national anthem, immigration system, and even its own Olympic team, yet it is not considered a country. When the powerful and aggressive force from the West arrived in China with new weapons and missionaries, the Chinese did not know how to respond because they had never encountered people like that before. As a result, the Chinese people failed to respond adequately, thereby losing everything in the process. The American Revolution took a heavy toll on Great Britain, leading to the loss of all its 14 colonies. In search of a new source of revenue, the empire turned its attention towards China. The British were buying tea, porcelain, and silk from China, while China, under the prosperous Qing dynasty at the time, did not purchase much from the British. Instead, the Chinese were exchanging their tea for silver, and the British government, facing a shortage of silver, decided to smuggle opium into Hong Kong, the perfect port for trading the opium produced in Bengal, India. In the early 19th century, the Chinese were addicted to opium, despite Emperor Qianlong's efforts to ban the deadly drug from China. From 1836 to 1839, the Chinese government took drastic measures to completely stop the illegal trade of opium. Many opium dens were closed and many Chinese traders were executed. The Imperial Commission of Qing China, led by Lin Zexu, seized British opium and burned it in Humen. He also stopped selling food supplies to the British. In response, the British invaded China in what is known as the First Opium War. They first took Hong Kong and then proceeded to Canton. The Chinese faced a series of defeats against the much more advanced weaponry of the British Empire. In late August 1842, the British captured Nanking and forced China to cede Hong Kong, while also demanding the opening of 5 ports: Shanghai, Ningpo, Fuzhou, Amoy, and Canton, for British opium trade. China was compelled to pay an indemnity of $21 million. This was known as the Treaty of Nanking. The failure of the Treaty of Nanking resulted in the Second Opium War in 1856, when sailors from Canton City seized a British ship and arrested Chinese crew members. This provided the British with the pretext they had been looking for to further their incursions into China Another pretext was the alleged execution of a French Christian missionary by the Chinese. With French backing, the British encountered minimal resistance during the invasion. However, the Chinese did not give up. They resisted for another 2 years until the fall of Beijing in 1860. The Summer Palace was surrounded and the Qing government surrendered unconditionally, agreeing to all British and French demands. 10 more ports were opened. Permission was granted to other European powers to occupy China. Conversion to Christianity was imposed, and the use of opium by Chinese citizens was legalized. Capitalism in Hong Kong was established on the backs of extremely poor Chinese. The European minority held absolute power, ruling over the majority Chinese population. They amassed their fortunes through the coercive trade of opium with the Chinese populace. Punishments such as flogging were inflicted upon the Chinese for minor offenses, and public hangings were conducted for the entertainment of the masses, a practice unique to Hong Kong among British colonies. Chinese residents were deprived of privacy and compelled to register with the colonial government under threat of severe penalties. Chinese citizens were prohibited from voting and restricted from being out on the streets past 9 p.m. without permission. Certain districts, including Peak Victoria and popular tourist beaches, were designated exclusively for white Europeans. Until the 1970s, all colonial government officials were of European descent, reflecting the absence of genuine democracy in Hong Kong. This system resulted in a mere 2% of the European population governing over 98% of the Chinese populace. So why are we being fed lies about Beijing taking back Hong Kong? In 1898, Britain took a 99-year lease on all of Hong Kong, but in reality, it was said to be in perpetuity. During the Second World War, Japan also invaded and occupied Hong Kong. After the defeat of the Japanese in 1945, the island was returned to the British. After the victory of the Communist Party in 1949 during the Chinese Civil War, the British thought China would invade and take back Hong Kong, but they did not. China simply asked for all of Hong Kong to be returned peacefully by 1997, but the British insisted on control over Hong Kong even if they gave the island back to the Chinese people. Protests erupted in Hong Kong over who should rule. Pro-China protests were led by trade unions, and pro-British protests were led by individuals who believed in Western democracy and its domination of the island. The pro-British protesters claimed they were no longer Chinese and they would like to preserve their Western way of life. China agreed to keep Hong Kong's capitalist system for at least 50 years. Britain, knowing it was in no position to defeat China, handed over Hong Kong in 1997 under the one country, two systems principle until 2047.
世界将永恒快乐，有你幸福。